Hello, hello. We are live. How are you, everyone? Thank you for joining us. I am Dr. Nelva Bryant from When Pets Fly. I'm a veterinarian, and thank you for joining us for my veterinary air travel podcast. I have with us today Emma Webb from Petkey. She's been with us before, our microchip guru, basically. I'm so happy to have you back with us. But before we get started, again, let me introduce myself, and I'll get Emma to introduce herself, and we're going to jump right on in it. Okay. Again, I'm Dr. Nelva Bryant. I'm a veterinarian, and I work in the airline industry. I work with Delta Airlines and been on staff with them since around 2018. Brought on staff to help review and revise policies for animal transportation. And we're talking more than just dogs and cats, guys. In the U.S., the transportation of animals by cargo is highly regulated, and it's regulated by multiple federal agencies in the United States. So keeping abreast of all those for the safety and welfare of animals, that's what I've been doing. And from that, I started noticing some things for pet owners, what they can do better to prepare their pets for air travel. So I developed When Pets Fly as a way to share that information to pet owners, really. And what I'm focusing on with it is protecting animal welfare during air travel. So that's what I've been doing. I have a website, www.whenpets.com. You can go there and see valuable information or sign up for consults if you need them for pet travel. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I also have a YouTube page and have these podcasts, which we've been doing for the past, let's say, 4 or 5 years now. And to me, these are opportunities to share or to share information or provide people that are different stakeholders in the animal transportation industry. And we get together and talk about animal transportation. So again, no different today. We've got Emma Webb from Petkey. Again, she's been with us before. Emma, go ahead and please introduce yourself, and we'll get into this.
So, hi everyone, my name is Emma Webb, as Nelva introduced. I am from Petkey. We are a microchip supplier and microchip database. We are based in Michigan, in Detroit, Michigan, but we cover the whole of the US. So our mission is to reunite pets through accurate microchip registration, and we are a leader in doing so. And by microchipping your animal, having them chipped, and also registering that chip and ensuring that registration links your contact details to their microchip, it means you can be contacted, you can be reached, that microchip number is searchable, and it means you can be reunited with your pet if they ever go missing. So that's in a nutshell what Petkey do. Reunite pets. We love to educate, bring awareness, but also partner with veterinarians, with shelters and rescues, etc., all over the US, to bring the industry together and ensure that all of our processes are streamlined, and we do everything we can to ensure that every pet owner is connected to their pet for the lifetime of that pet.
That's perfect. I definitely need it. And in the U.S., to be honest with you, it doesn't seem like, I know in different countries, I believe over in Europe, and I'm not exactly sure where, but it's more mandatory that if they have a pet, it's microchipped and everything. And
it is, yes. Yeah. No. So in England, where obviously you can hear from my accent, where I am from, it is mandatory. And for dogs, it's been mandatory since 2016. And cats as well from 2023 to have the microchips, but also for them to be registered to you. And the reunification rate for dogs is well over 90%, which means any pet that goes missing is reunited with their owner. They're not waiting in shelters and kennels. We have space in shelters and rescues, etc., because these dogs make it home, which obviously isn't the case in many states, or the majority of states in the US. So something we're massive advocates for, to ensure that, pets are reunited and they're not left in shelters and rescues that are at capacity and then rehomed to even another state halfway across across the states.
Right.
So, yeah.
I remember we worked together. We did a campaign to assist you as far as asking folks about if they had microchipped their pets. I remember I went to a local park and was asking two individuals that were walking their dogs, And one, of course, was on board. What was his name? Tracy Masick. He was on board, knew exactly what to do. His dog was a Vizsla, and he definitely made sure he was microchipped and everything. So great. He understood. And then there was another gentleman who had this beautiful black German Shepherd, and you don't see black German Shepherds often. And I was asking him if he microchipped his dog, and he was like, no. And I'm like, well, whatever, what if it gets lost or it gets out or whatever? He said, oh, he's always going to be with me. He's never out of my sight. I'm like, okay, interesting thought pattern. But I mean, that is the thought. We think sometimes we're in control of everything with our pets, but God forbid, say someone's at your house, it's holiday time, someone's at your house, they leave the door open, dog runs out. Something could happen. You could very easily lose sight of your pet. And depending on, I mean, some certain breeds, people will steal from you, number one. But depending on the situation, you may never see your dog again. And it's based on not being microchipped. So very important.
100%. And that's the reality of it. And we see it every single day. Mm-hmm. And the amount of people who you have on the phone that say, like, this has happened, I can't believe it. What do I do? Where do I go? And not understanding that we all say it will never happen to us. We hear it on the news, we see it somewhere, and we think, no, it will never happen to us. A really common one is my cat's an indoor cat. My cat doesn't go outside. Why do they need to be microchipped? And if anything, those cats are the ones that need to be microchipped more, because they're not aware of their outside space. They don't know what it's like. They don't know how to make it home. So if anything were to happen, I don't know, a firework to go off and it startled them and they've escaped really quickly, they don't know how to make it back. They don't see the outside world. So microchip is even more important for those. So yeah, we see it all the time for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, you bring that up too, that as far as microchipping an indoor cat, there's even pet owners that believe for cats, if they're indoor, they don't need to be vaccinated. But again, it's for the same reason. You just get out and get exposed and things could happen. So you need to protect cats, even if they're inside. Vaccination and definitely microchipping to make sure if they get out, you can get them back home safely. So extremely important. And you brought up earlier, it really is important. There's a lot of dogs I'm sure you've seen with your work with shelters. There's a lot of dogs in the U.S. that are in the shelters that look like they had owners, but they're not microchipped and they're in this environment. And if that owner doesn't claim them, who knows what's going to happen,
Yeah, so I visited a lot of shelters and rescues, and to understand that, I think there's some stray holds that I think are as little as like 4 days. I think they have to have the pet. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's different depending on the city and state, etc. But 4 days, and a pet can be put up for adoption and rehomed somewhere, wherever, to another loving family. So I just think for that to happen, for you to go on holiday even and leave your pet with someone else, or 4 days is such a short amount of time for that process to all happen and for that pet to be gone forever. But not only has the pet gone or been rehomed, you don't know where that pet's gone. You don't know if they're still missing. You don't know that they've been found and been rehomed in that time. So for the rest of forever, you're in that state of mind where you have no idea.
Yeah,
which is quite scary.
Make me think of a story I told you before we started. My microchip story that I think was just shocking. I was working at a preventive veterinary clinic, and a woman brought in a dog that she said she found when she was in Michigan, and she was a truck driver, and she was here in Atlanta at home, and she found this dog. She brought him in because she felt it probably needed vaccinations, what have you. Well, it was customary for us to always scan each dog that came in with the microchip scanner to see if they had a microchip and everything, because we were promoting pets getting microchipped. So we scanned it and got a number, and they looked it up. My staff looked it up and found that this dog was actually owned by someone in Michigan. And amazing. And they, of course, we shared that information with the new pet owner or the person that had the dog and everything, for her to kind of resolve the situation with that person. But staff members took it a little bit further and found the name of the person and put it on Facebook, and found that this person in Michigan actually had mentioned that she is missing her dog. So,
didn't even realize that the dog had an owner.
The dog went on a road trip. Unbeknownst to her, the dog was in Atlanta.
He was living his best life.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. But I mean, the microchipping is very important to identify situations like this. So it's important.
For sure. I think we had a story where a cat had been missing from its owners for a really long time. I'm talking in excess of 5 years. The owner, they had been searching for a really long time. And I think at what point in time do you say, okay, enough's enough, this cat's not coming home? 5 years is a long time.
Yeah.
The owners in that time, they had actually moved. And I reached out to them because their pet had been found. And after 5 years, the chip got scanned, they were contacted, and they were reunited, and everything was caught on camera, the reunification. Oh, it was heavenly. It was lovely. And so I reached out to this owner, and I just wanted to understand more what happened, how they went missing. And the owner has said to me, do you know what? She said, I refused a microchip. And I said, what do you mean you refused? Because it was chipped. She said, but originally when we went to the vets said, while the cat was being having some routine vaccinations and everything else, we can microchip her. And she said, we don't want a microchip. I don't need one. We don't want one. And that was that. The vet actually implanted the microchip anyway. Now, I'm not sure how that came about or happened, but it did. And the owner came away and thought, okay, well, it's microchip, so it needs to be registered. That's what I meant to do, registered the microchip. And being reunited over 5 years after the cat went missing, she said that microchip saved my cat's life. Yeah. She said, without that microchip, I would never have seen this cat again, ever. And she couldn't be more thankful. And I just think, what a lovely story. Like, the proof is in the pudding. This is happening, and it's happening every day. So yeah, crazy.
Definite. I wonder though, were you able to find out for her what was her reservations for it initially? Was it because she thought it was painful? Did she give you any idea of why she initially wanted to refuse it?
I think it was to do with other people around her, like having an impression saying that it wasn't needed. Yeah. It won't ever go missing. It's not. Yeah. It's just not a need more than anything else. Which I guess if you don't have that awareness, you don't know the consequence of what happens if you don't have a microchip, then maybe I understand. But now understanding what it can do, the consequence if you don't, and the realization of what it is doing for your pet for the lifetime of that pet, no matter what. I mean, collar tags, visible identification is absolutely great. However, how many times could that fall off? If they're missing, are they going through bushes? Are they getting caught? Is it coming off? Is it wearing off over time, etc.? That microchip is for life. It's permanent identification.
Definite. I mean, that's one thing there too. Again, people think that, why microchip? He's got to have a collar on, but as you mentioned, the collar can very easily come off, and you don't want that to happen. To be honest with you, I've noticed here in the United States, comparing Georgia to New York. My mom is in New York. I was saying, hey mom, get the dog. And again, Em and I just share, we both love French bulldogs. I have one, she has one.
We do.
My whole family loves that type of breed, that look. So we have one in New York. My mom has one, and I was saying, Mom, make sure you get Prince microchipped. And she was like, microchipping costs like $150 here. I was like, what? I said, down here in Georgia, it's kind of cheap. I think it was like $25 or so. It's like, it's cheap. She's like, I don't know if it's worth it. I was like, Mom, for the sake of, if something happens, you want to get him back. You want to show that's your dog and get him back. I said, because if you don't microchip him, there's a chance you won't see Prince again. So yeah, so there might be some variations. Again, you got people that's also saying it's not necessary. Then also you sometimes cost factors. I was like, hey, is this really important? Is it really that crucial to do? But ultimately, if you want to see your pet again, get a microchip.
Yeah, for sure. Isn't it funny how cost can be a factor? Mm-hmm. The implantation and the registration. Yeah, I mean, we have French bulldogs, right? So the amount I spend on his food,
I know.
And everything else, and we treat everyone. I mean, I don't know who doesn't. You treat your dog like family, and the amount you spend on them on little bits and pieces every single month, you don't realize what you're racking up. Right. So to spend that amount on something that is going to protect them for life, it's second to none. It's Yeah, it's a must.
Yeah, look, like I said, it. Well, think about it. Little small amounts of say 50 to whatever, periodically doesn't seem as much, but when you get hit with a bill like bam, like, wow, was that real? Do I really need that? So I can understand it, but you're right. When it all pays, when you add everything up, you realize you're putting a lot out for that breed, for your pet anyway, any pet. So that's how it goes.
For sure.
That's how it goes. But yeah. Trying to think what else. So tell me a little bit though, with Petkey, how long have you been involved with this? How long has Petkey been on the market? Give me some more information.
So Petkey's been around a long time. It's been, I think, over 20 years now that Petkey's been established. So my background is I worked for Lisa, who's our CEO, actually over here in the UK. For a couple of years, and we had a number of microchip databases over here in the UK, to which I mentioned how microchipping over here is mandatory, and it's very different over here. And when we acquired Petkey, Lisa later sold the UK businesses, and we carried on. With Petkey.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, over 20 years.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, a long time, for sure. I think, so Petkey, obviously, like I said, partners with veterinarians, shelters and rescues all over. So we definitely focus on education, awareness, etc. And we like to, so not only do we register microchips, supply microchips, but we do spend a lot of time actually out in the field, meeting vets, meeting the shelters and rescues, spending time with them to understand what's happening in other parts of the industry, because we can only become better if we're aware of what's going on in other parts of the industry. What are their pain points? What are their challenges? What's the process for them? Because we want to ensure that everyone's process is streamlined and working to the best it can, so that we're all coming together to ensure that not only is every pet microchipped, but they're registered. And also another important one is that those microchip details are up to date, because you can have a microchip and it can be registered to you, but if you've changed your phone number 2 years later and someone can't get hold of you, you're in exactly the same position as someone whose pet isn't even microchipped, right? So having those details up to date is just as important. So being able to partner with all these industry organizations, to do collaboration work with yourself, with others in the industry that are kind of authority figures, to be able to do that, I think we carry more weight to be able to educate others and kind of bring awareness to what's needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as far as, okay, so it's over 20 years, how long have you been, you're based out of Michigan, but been in Michigan for 20 years as well?
So I'm actually in the UK.
Okay.
However, most of the team are in Michigan. Yes.
Got it.
Okay. Yeah. So for over 20 years.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. Well, some questions or some thought-provoking things here is that I've noticed about microchipping that's a little bit concerning to me is that, and I've noticed this also with some issues that's happened in dogs coming to the United States and the microchip numbers and everything that's provided me on official documentation. What I've noticed about microchipping is it doesn't always necessarily identify the animal, because it's a number, and most companies right now just have the number and establish, say, with the pet owner. Is there a way within Petkey that maybe I can connect it with a photo or something else to connect that pet as being mine? Because if not, you might have, it might say a French Bulldog, brown, named Bella, and there could be another French Bulldog that's brown, same sex, named, Bella. So how does the microchip accurately identify that pet? is my
Yeah, so I think what you're saying is, so when someone would go through and register their pet,
Yes.
not only are we taking that registration and ensuring they're connected via the owner's contact details,
Right.
but we're also ensuring that we take as many pet details as well as possible to improve that chance of identification and reunification. So that's, like you said, we've got the pet's name, we've got the pet's age, but also their breed, their color, any kind of distinguishing marks that the pet may have, a pet photo,
So you
but also encouraging the owner, yes, the pet photo. We need to encourage them to also keep that up to date, because what they look like as a puppy 5 years later, they're definitely not going to look the same.
Right.
So that's also important.
That's nice. Okay. No, I didn't know you had a photo associated with yours. That's perfect. That's a big ad, because I know, I mean, maybe I'm thinking how things were in the past. I don't know if I was ever given the opportunity to put a photo of my pet when I registered my microchip for my dog, and this is for Naya. He does have one too. Actually, I was surprised. This dog came from, his name is Pock, French Bulldog. He actually was a gift from my niece, and I believe my niece had initially got him from either Germany or Hungary or somewhere. So he was already microchipped, and I wasn't aware of it. I wouldn't have to have him checked, and lo and behold, he's microchipped. But guess what? My niece had it done. She didn't register him. And he's an expensive little dog. So go back to again and say, if you're going to go as far as microchipping your dog or cat, get it registered, please.
For sure. Something else to add is not only are they identifiable through the photo and all those pet details, but we also allow pet owners to add veterinary records and vaccination details as well. So to have all that at your disposal, not only for the pet owner, obviously is going to help massively. Depending on what they can upload, so they can upload their vets and vaccination details, what vet they go to, any kind of history like documentation, etc. as well, which obviously comes in really handy.
Right, because again, I'm thinking of places I've seen. It's just they give you a number and they don't really go into great detail. So this is good to know that you're connecting the dots, because that's what's needed. Definitely what's needed in those situations. Perfect.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's so paramount to be able to develop those relationships with others in the organization. That's how we kind of learn, like, what helps, what hinders, what can we do better, what can you do better, how can we work together to kind of reach our mission and our vision.
Definite. What about, let's see, now the microchip that you're saying, I mean, with Petkey, is it ISO compatible? What is it, 15-digit ISO compatible, so that it's recognized universally? Perfect.
Yes, always. Yes, of course.
Folks, see, in the US, again, you've got some microchip companies that are not compatible with ISO, and they're still giving a microchip, and a lot of pet owners or even the veterinarians are not aware that this is not what they're providing is not the universal standard. So say, for instance, they decide they want to travel internationally, there's a rude awakening of like, oh, I have to re-microchip my pet because this isn't ISO compatible and everything.
So not only ISO compatible, but we also so we provide different microchips. We provide standard microchips and also mini microchips. So we identified that obviously you have smaller animals, right? Not every dog is big. You've got cats that are obviously really dainty as well. So by providing a smaller microchip, it's more comfortable for the pet. It's more comfortable for the implantation. It's smaller. So the standard microchip is, I think, 12 millimeters, and the mini microchip's only 8 millimeters, which is great not only for whoever's implanting the animal, the vet, but also for the pet, of course. But obviously, a lot of people, like you said, might have a misconception or worry that it hurts the pet, etc. So the smaller needle, I think is 1.25 by 8 mil. So it's really small to allow for any kind of smaller animal, cat, smaller dog, or any worry the owner may have that that it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But then the standard as well, which goes up to the larger animals, up to horses.
Yeah. You know, and it makes me think, we've had this discussion a while back, but microchipping itself, I would leave that for a veterinary professional to do so, because, and I've seen it, and I'll be honest, I haven't tracked fairly recently, but in the past, I believe you can actually buy microchips or the whole assembly and the microchip itself on Amazon, which sucks because that means anybody can get access to these things and inject them in a pet. And if you don't know what you're doing, you shouldn't be applying this to a pet, because I've seen and I can't remember where I saw that, but I saw a radiograph or X-ray of an animal, and I think it was a cat, that they impaled it. They basically, it's supposed to be underneath your skin, usually between the shoulder blades, but looks like someone went down vertically onto the pet to provide it, and it impaled into the spinal column, which was very sad.
That's another thing, I think, where the UK differs from the US, in that anyone over here would have to be professionally trained, and they have to have a certificate to say they've gone through professional training, and they've been, if they're not a vet, they have to be professionally trained and go through training procedures, and have animals that they've implanted, etc., and go through all that to be able to microchip. So yeah, in the US, definitely to go to a vet or someone who's had that professional training, like you said.
And trust me, as a veterinarian, in giving them, I really never liked doing it, but because it just, I mean, I know it's important to do, but I always looked at the gauge, and it's like, geez, that's a big gauge needle. But I understand the importance of it and why we're doing it, but you just have to be able to do it and proficient in it. And I became very proficient with doing it, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can hurt them in that process. You really could. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's why the mini microchips are so important.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Definitely.
And are the minis ISO compatible as well?
Yes.
Nice. Very good.
Yeah, of course. Always, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to shift gears a little bit and just talk about, let's relate microchipping to traveling, because it's really, really important, especially for international travel, that, again, the ISO compatible microchip is applied. And we get into rulings on when the microchip is applied compared to the rabies vaccine. A lot of folks get upset about that, but that's important. And you might be able to tell me more reason. And I know someone from London who explained it to me of why microchip first and then rabies. Can you elaborate on that? Or do you remember? I believe it was saying that the microchipping was the way that it's registered first. And then you can give the rabies vaccine that same day or afterwards, but you can't give the rabies vaccination first and then microchipping. And I think it was based upon, you have to register that pet first with the microchip.
Yes, so the microchip would come first, yes. Rabies always after.
Yeah.
I definitely understand that, but that's also something through partnerships, etc., that I've learned, like how it all works, and it has to be within a certain timeline. It has to go in that order, definitely.
Yeah. See, and then it makes it difficult here in the US for us to follow it, because again, there's never been a standard for that. And again, it's never been where a requirement your pet must be microchipped or any form of fashion. So folks are given the rabies vaccination and think, hey, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do to get to the destination. If, say whatever's needed to go to, I don't know, Brazil or whatever. And then they find out, oh no, you're supposed to microchip first and then the rabies vaccination. So then they wind up redoing the rabies vaccination, and they get worried about that. But I used to worry about it too, and I don't know if it does impact them or not. It is a concern, but there is an order on, again, microchipping and rabies vaccination on how things are done. Yeah. And you may not like it. You may not think it. You may think it's stupid, but you still have to comply with that destination country's requirements. Period.
Of course, rules are there for a reason. Yeah. So we don't have rabies in the UK, as it never entered the UK. So they were very strict with who enters, and the pet would have to quarantine for like 6 months to obviously prevent that happening. So again, like you said, with travel requirements are so different compared to depending on where you're going, whether it's domestic, whether it's international, and where that destination is.
Definite. And then what they've done lately now in the U.S., which is a shocker for folks, is that when you, as an a dog entry requirement coming back to the U.S., they must be, what they say, 6 months, must be microchipped. And again, they didn't go into great detail, but it's microchip again, microchip first in the rabies vaccination, same day or after. So when you travel out of the country, I've known folks, again, that don't want to microchip their dog and leave the country. Realize if you want to come back with them, they still have to be microchipped. So you have to get it done.
Yeah.
So really, honestly, there's so many reasons why you should microchip. We mentioned earlier, as far as being reunited with your dog or cat is going to be extremely important, but also the travel reasons too, to meet the requirements of that destination country, and that even means coming back to the United States.
Yeah. Although, so I went to go and meet. I went to the Ark at JFK. And I know Elizabeth has been on podcast with you before.
Yeah.
So she wasn't there actually when I went, but we managed a video call, which was great. So to meet the team there and understand and see pets who are ready to travel out, but also coming in through JFK, was amazing for one. But to understand how generally most pets they're already microchipped, they're already registered, but they mentioned a couple of times where they've either had that not happen or those details are out of date, and the issues that they've had there. So to see it firsthand of a pet actually at the point of travel or coming back through travel, not only is there obviously welfare implications and caring for that pet either pre or post travel, which is obviously huge, but not being able to contact an owner or those details being out of date and having to source contact information elsewhere also can be an issue. So to timing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, is obviously really key in ensuring that it's a preventative rather than getting to the point of, I mean, travel can be stressful enough, right? We have enough to think about without having to not prepare as well as we should have and have those issues arise at the latest point.
Definite. I'm glad you had the opportunity to visit with Beth. I forgot you were going to do that, but yes.
Yeah, you introduced me, so thank you.
Yeah, the facility is wonderful. Were you able also to see where they have the horses and stuff like that too?
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I think very highly of Beth and the Ark at JFK. I always tell her there needs to be an Ark in Atlanta. There needs to be a facility like that down here on the airport grounds, and I'm very proud that she has that. For folks who don't know, Beth Shuetti, and I hope I pronounced her last name correctly, is the CEO of the Ark at JFK. It is the only animal facility on airport grounds in the U.S. at the JFK airport. So very, very, very needed facility, and definitely very to spread throughout the United States. We need facilities like that also. Over in other countries, over in Europe and other countries, they already have these facilities that take care. It could be dogs and cats, also horses, but they have these facilities, and we're lacking. We only have one, so we need to pick up the speed so that we can take care of animals traveling, basically, and that's what they're doing.
For sure. So some other things that we've done recently that just really exciting to talk about is we recently supported a microchipping street clinic. Sorry. Although not specifically travel, being able to get involved with communities whereby sometimes there is financial implications and people might not have those means, being able to ensure that we're reaching everyone and being able to kind of make sure we're being ethical, diverse, and kind of supporting everyone that we can by reaching those microchip kind of street clinics and providing them microchips, just enabling that no matter kind of who you are or who your pet, that they can be microchipped and registered and ensure that everyone has a chance at that.
That's nice. I know down here in Georgia, in my county, I've seen some instances where they'll have microchip basically events free microchipping. Bring your dog or cat and you get them microchipped. And so it's something similar to that.
Yeah, exactly that. Something similar to that. Yeah, for sure. So it's based in Michigan. I think it's Michigan Community Street Clinic. They do a few microchip clinics every, I think it's a couple every year. And they just go out into the community. They offer lots of different veterinary smaller procedures that they can do that they don't need a full practice for. Lots of volunteers. There's lots going on. They've managed to collaborate with like food providers and kind of all different people in the industry to kind of help build up that community to ensure that kind of all pets are supported for and their welfare, etc., taken care of, which is really nice. But it's just another reason to show that all different organisations coming together in the industry to ensure that every pet is looked after, loved and cared for, but microchipped and registered.
That's nice. That's very nice. I know years ago there was something here, and I don't know if they're doing anymore. It was through, I forgot the name of the Humane Society, but it was one of our nationwide humane societies that also had something here locally where they focused on, they identified what they call, in a sense, veterinary care deserts where there were not access to veterinary care in these certain communities. And they would come in quarterly and have vaccine clinics and give out food and free spay neuter coupons and stuff like that. So that's really a great community thing to do. So is that something? Yeah, very nice. And I'm glad, again, spaying neuter, but microchipping, part of that portion of it is extremely important, again, because if you have them, you want to get them back. Like I said, you go through all that, you want your pet back.
Yeah. So one of our questions was who's responsible for not only the microchipping but the documents and the welfare and everything else. So I think it's important to say that we're all responsible.
Yes.
Although I'm not personally accountable for your pet, and neither is the vet, and neither is the airline. I think all of us coming together, the vet with the documents, the airline with all the regulations and ensuring we meet them, the microchip database by storing that information, ensuring that every time we speak to the owner that their details are all up to date and correct, etc. By all of us together doing our part, that pet is protected.
I think as far as when you come to just taking care of pets and traveling and everything we do for our pets, even if it's going to the groomer, everyone needs to start working together for the welfare of that pet and doing things together and combine it, because ultimately that's what we want to take care of. We want to make sure it's safe during transport. We want to safe wherever he goes. You want to get him back. So working together, I think, is going to be the major key for everything regarding that. We just got to find a way to connect better, like I said, just connect better. I know me personally, I believe that working in the airline industry, I think there's a common interest within the veterinary profession, and there has to be a way that we start working together to ensure the safety and welfare of pets. Because again, and then also with that, take it a step further. A lot of the regulations that airlines enforce are from federal agencies. Now, the airline might have a policy that's a little bit more stringent, and that's their right to do so. But a lot of things, such as could be something simple as minimal age for transport. That's a federal regulation. The youngest that a dog or cat can be transported by air is 8 weeks of age. Again, that's a regulatory requirement, but the airline can be more stringent, say more. But again, the airline is trying to enforce regulations from the for regulatory authority. Why can't we have a better relationship with that regulatory authority? To make better sense. Instead of you just telling me do this, how can we work together better to ensure compliance with these regulations, which trickles down to ensuring the safety and welfare of that pet? So we all need to be connected. We can't just go in a silo, you do this and whatever, and I give you a regulation, you follow. We need to work together, because the teamwork effort is really to benefit that animal during
transport. For sure. Yeah, I think every part of the industry has their own rules, has their own regulations and their guidelines, because we're all experts in our own field, right? I guess we're all doing what's best for protecting pets in our own area.
Right.
But by coming together, we can learn why we're doing that, why those rules are in place, and actually seeing it from the other industry authorities' point of view, and
Right.
actually, do they match up? Do they make sense together? Do they not? Is change needed? Is it not needed? What works? What doesn't work?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, like you said, we've all got our rules and regulations,
Yeah.
but by coming together, we're able to actually, I guess, challenge the status quo. Is that the right thing to say? By challenging what's happening, is it right or is it wrong? Do we need change? Do we not? Yeah.
I mean, it's almost what I've learned over the years in the roles and positions I've had working more in headquarter positions. When you're in those roles, you can make policies or procedures for folks to follow, and it trickles down to the folks in the field working. But what you write or what you develop may not even flow well for people in the field to comply with or to follow. So you've got to be able to connect at the field level, who's doing the work for you, kind of thing. So we just have to connect better to make sure there's compliance. And
so something that makes me think of is at the moment, what happens is when a pet goes missing, if a pet is found and let's say taken to your veterinary clinic, they're scanned. They found the microchip number and they look up what database that microchip number is tied to, right? Mm-hmm. And then they go, okay, so it's tied to this microchip database. I need to call the database. So I'm going to call the database and find out if I can get this pet to its owner. By the industry coming together and understanding each and every part that's played, Petkey understands that vet doesn't want to call the microchip database. They just want to connect with the owner. Mm-hmm. We need to take out some of the friction here. So now any verified rescue or veterinary practice, etc., if a chip is a Petkey chip and registered with Petkey, they can look up in their account, in the veterinary practice's account, those contact details for the owner and connect directly with that owner. So they don't have to look up, they don't have to call the microchip database. They can access that owner's contact information directly and call the owner there and then themselves, cutting out an extra step. So by working together, we understand, how does your process work? How can we make this better for you? Right. Because we need to get this pet home. The owner's stressed they're missing a pet. The pet's stressed because it's missing its owner and it's not home. Right. How can we get this reunification to happen quicker? And that's one of those outcomes.
That's perfect. Prime example. How can you streamline and make it easier for the whole process? So working together, it's wonderful you connecting within the veterinary field, and I hope you expand further. Again, finding ways to streamline the process to help reunite that pet faster, because it's only going to help the pet owner and it definitely relieve the stress on that pet too. So very good.
Exactly.
Very good. Again, we have to stop being it seems like to me in the past, everyone has just had their rigid area and not connecting. And we do need to connect together to ultimately, again, to benefit the animal welfare.
Definitely. I think it's time. I think shelters and rescues are at capacity. I think veterinary practices are generally so busy. They're time poor. They need to be given time back. And the way to do that is by streamlining these processes. The same with shelters and rescues, by giving them time back, by helping them with certain things, or reuniting these pets quicker. They're able to free up space for real stray pets or other rehoming that they need to do, and kind of take on more pets but that they don't currently have space for. So yeah, definitely connecting the dots.
Yeah, somebody's knocking on my door here. Hold on. Wait.
No, you're good.
Hold on one quick. I'm sorry, excuse me.
No problem.
Sorry. But yes, what did I say? Well, another thing I think about is past issues with microchipping that you want to discuss too. That's always been an issue, but maybe it's not an issue with Petkey. People making mistakes as far as I read something. I was doing a survey and I was gathering information from pet owners regarding pet travel. And one person had mentioned that they had a lot of difficulty with traveling their pet because the veterinarian transcribed an additional number onto their microchip number, and it just ruined everything for them. So transcription errors, all these things like that, is that something that can commonly happen with Petkey, or just what are your thoughts on that?
So I think across the industry, like you said, it can be really common. I think one extra digit, one digit wrong, that's the difference between your pet being registered to you, right? And your pet not being registered to you. I think when it comes to Petkey, there's definitely different like validation rules, I guess, in place to ensure that whoever's registering that microchip, the right number, the right amount of numbers, sorry, have been entered. Has this chip already been registered? Is it showing as registered? Is it definitely unregistered and it needs to be registered? There are a lot of different rules in place so that once that microchip number is entered, those rules can kind of generate, and depending on what's entered, the owner can be shown, okay, this is too many digits, you need to recheck. This is already registered actually, or this is not registered, you're right, this needs to be registered. So there's lots of different rules in place to kind of verify that microchip number, which may not be the case across others across the industry. But yeah, you're right. One digit too many, too less, wrong digits is the difference between registration and not.
Yeah, I think as far as with that, with pet owners traveling and everything, microchipping their pets prior to, they just have to make sure everything is validated before traveling. There's a lot of checks, just making sure, as far as the documentation and order, before you travel, just make sure all that's in order. Because as you just mentioned, that one number off can really have a significant factor on identifying your pet. You go to scan it. So if you go to have something written and they go to scan it and it's different, you've got an issue here. And how are you going to resolve that with your pet? So
I think the way to think about it is when you're flying or you have to enter your passport details, how careful do you check those passport numbers? I check mine so many times to make sure what I bet, because I know if that's not right, that's the difference between me going and not going, and it coming back and telling me
what did I do? You know, it wasn't an international travel for me, but fairly recently, someone else. It was like a travel agent made my flight arrangements for me for a company, and they transcribed my date of birth. They put it as basically May 9th instead of September 5th. So that was switched up. And I go through security and get up in line and it says, oh, there's a problem with your documentation. And I'm like, what? So I have to go all the way back over and figure out. And it was like, and when they repaired it, the person said to me, you put down May 9th. As if I did. I said, ma'am, I didn't make these reservations. Someone else did. I know my birthday. I know it's September 5th, not May 9th. I know when I was born. So either way, thank God we got it fixed. But I was if you know, Atlanta Airport, I was all over the place trying to get it done. But these numbers, again, any simple number changing that's off can really stress you out big time. And who knows, if you didn't have any flight, you could lose your flight, or if you travel with a pet, it could be instance of them not coming with you based upon these numbers. So yeah, check prior.
Yeah, definitely. I think imagine how stressful you were in that situation.
Yeah, I was.
Imagine a pet not knowing what was going on, never been through this situation before, everything being delayed, them being in quarantine or wherever they are even longer. Yeah. It's so stressful for them. You want to make it as easy and as smooth as possible.
Definitely. Man, was there anything else you want to touch on? I think we had a lot of great topics, and I'm so happy.
I think we did. Today. I think we covered lots. We did good.
Yes, a lot of information shared. We've got two people that stayed on board with us. I'm very proud. I'm going to say names. Linda Hunter, thank you so much, and Blair Hewlett. So thank you so much for listening the whole time. We're going to go ahead and close out for today. But anything further you want to say before we close out, Emma?
Just a massive thank you, and it was lovely to be on again, Nelva, and to work with you guys, and hopefully moving forward we can do lots more together and connect those dots.
Definitely. Let me give you your contact information. Please reach out to Petkey. They're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Here's the information as far as the website, and if you want to email them as well. So thank you. I appreciate you being here and us getting into this deep discussion. And I thank everyone for listening. And that is it for us today. So thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Don't leave.